You have a message. You want to share that message. You want it to be social, to go viral, and spread across the planet. But how do you get started? Tune into Amplify, featuring host Ken Rochon. This show is here to help you take that message and channel it through the most effective marketing techniques to not only be successful, but have a positive impact on the world. Tune in live
Monday at 8 a.m. Pacific Time and 11 a.m. Eastern Time on the Voice America Influencers Channel.
and get amplified.
Welcome and good morning. Happy Monday. Kicking off the week. First day of school for some, my son included. So he is heading to school, third grade. Butterflies. I know the people on the show do not have butterflies, but I remember when I went to my first day of school, the anticipation and all that excitement, who you're going to meet, how's the year going to be, what friends you're going to make, all that good stuff. So how are you, Andrea?
I'm wonderful, and I'm so excited that you got to spend the morning with to get his first day off. So fun.
Yeah, I think you might be breaking up a little bit, just so you know.
Thank you.
You're
All
welcome.
right, skip me then.
Well, we're not gonna skip too far, but I did an event yesterday, Heals and Motivation with Dr. Renee Allen in DC. Had people from all over the U.S. come to this event, and very, very fun event. We'll be posting the photos so you can give a little glance and share them with people. And what else did we do this weekend? Did you have any events? Kind of a quiet one for you?
I'm trying to remember what all I did. I had a lot going on. I did have some things occur that really make the Keep Smiling movement even more poignant. And that is I had some other people die in my world and frame of the world. And, every time that happens, it just makes it more painful. And the fact that we never got their story and their legacy of who they are, what they meant, and what they wanted to portray out into the world. And it's painful not only for us at the Keep Smiling movement, but painful for their loved ones and friends. And ironically, for the people who it could have impacted and touched and changed their life to have known what was important to them, what they changed, what they wanted to see change in the world. So I just wanted to really address that. And I did do some things this week, but I can't remember what all I did.
Well, you can't remember everything, but I do want to give a shout out to Tanya Waltrick with T Rose Bridal. We supported her. Again, she is a saving grace for so many people in the event business in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. And she's actually an East Coast on the show, bridal show. And, you meet someone like her and your business will evolve because she connects people. She connects opportunities. So just want to give a shout out to you, Tanya. I know you're going to be listening at some point, and thank you for getting us through a troubled year last year, being brave, stepping up and doing the virtual bridal show, which was a hoot. And then of course, these real bridal shows with all the brides, all the opportunities. You are a blessing. So thank you very
Yeah,
much.
T Rose Bridal does go to multiple locations and did them virtually during. And I was almost at that. I got asked by Linda McBee, who is a friend and supporter of the Keep Smiling movement, to come and help her with her business. And because she was hoping that I could be in Baltimore this weekend, but I wasn't able to go. So you almost saw me there because I would have been working it to help people get the things that they needed and to have a lot of things happen for them. So, and congratulations, I already saw pictures for the Heals and Motivation from Gaela Bynum, who had put some stuff up.
Oh,
She's
good.
with We Will Survive Cancer. And some fun things that are coming up this week. We'll see. I'm either supposed to be in Philadelphia Wednesday and Thursday or possibly Vegas. So we'll see what the cards throw out there on the world to make happen for any of us. And hopefully, Ken, we can get you there.
Well, I know we have the Arizona book and the Philadelphia book that we went out there a couple months ago and we took photos. And I know there's at least 40 or 50 people that want to do chapters, but it is all about how does the chapter happen when you meet someone that has a great story. And so I would like to just briefly show that this book is indeed 800 pages. A 100-page book obviously is just like that much. So this is the book or the template that was being referenced earlier about people that do not necessarily understand the importance of doing this while you're alive. And we're recommending people that are doing really wonderful things in the world to share their story, because at some point the story does go away with the person. So this book is about legacy. It's also about connecting stories to inspire. So I hope that you get the template. It's how you created who you are, why you do what you do, and how it impacts the world. So really fun template. It takes about 2 hours to do, and you're on Amazon, and we have all kinds of books on Amazon that you can get for free as ebooks through the keepsmilingmovement.com.
Yeah, and a shout out to Chris Crone, who's having an event right now. He is a YouTube influencer and influential in the real estate world, and he has completed his chapter as well for the Dose of Hope book. So thankful to him for seeing the value and how not only his message getting out to the world, but by encouraging other people to share their stories to motivate others is important and
Well,
valued. So
since
thank
you
you.
brought that up, I do want to say that we're going to press this week with the 4th edition. We have included in there Rob Angel, who created Pictionary. We have Ron Klein, who created the magnetic strip for the credit card. Of course, we just talked about Chris Crone. We have Randy Sutton and so many other people. We have about 24 chapters that are going into the new edition. So it'll be 4 parts of Doses of Hope. And for those of you who are curious, it's going to be 12 parts total, adding up to 10,000 pages. And the comment we've had from a couple people is, who would read 10,000 pages? Well, I don't think anyone would read 10,000 pages in one sitting, but believe it or not, one dose a day is about 8 pages. And that is what we think would happen for about 500 days. And that is how many authors there are.
And that's what we're talking about, a dose of hope. It just makes things all right in the
Well, why don't
world.
we bring the sponsors up, and then let's bring our guest in.
Yes. So our main sponsor is bees.social. That's BEES.social, the cryptocurrency for the world, a crypto literacy program for the people by the people. My makeup lady, Lynn Benavides, the EMF Fix, menfashion.com for the shirts that Ken wears when he speaks and around the world. And also Perfect Publishing and the Red Carpet Connection and Voice America Influencers channel. And today's guest, I'm super excited to bring on. I met him through John Robertson, through Friends of Peter, because Ken invited me to join Friends of Peter. It's a private mastermind, and Peter Storple is one of the most connected men in North America. And Steve Gandara is this amazing man who really focuses on excellent cultures and the team of having an excellent culture. Excellentcultures.com is his website. He's spent over 4 decades helping leaders transform corporate culture and helps leaders turn into relentless commitment to excellence that yields them triple and quadruple. It's so big, it's quadruple digit ROIs. He's a Hispanic American, and he grew up in a West Texas family of overachievers. Graduated from Oklahoma University. He was in the military, in the Army, and he has done so many things in the field of helping different people do major things, from startups to Fortune 500s. He's also worked with clergy and nonprofit leaders such as us, and he really is committed to maximizing professional leadership and personal growth of leaders and employees alike. I'm so glad to not only have him as a guest, but to be personal friends with Steve Gandara. Here he is. As soon as he pushes the button.
And Steve,
Hi there.
Pronounce your last name so I make sure I get that right.
Gandara is a good way. Gandara, if you were south of the border or in Spain, you'd say Gandara. But if you're not an eye roller or an R roller, you could be an eye roller, but not an R roller. I'll answer to anything that's close.
So Gandara is correct?
That's good.
Okay. Because I thought it was a tomato thing. I just want to make sure.
It is tomato.
So a lot of people don't know, after you triple and quadruple your digits for ROI, the 5th one is quintuple.
Yeah,
right?
quintuple. Yeah, we've actually had one client that did that.
Oh, really?
But that's not the norm. But usually it's triple to quadruple, and that's because we're able to solve business problems by dealing with the soul of the company or the soul of the people, which is the soul of the company is basically the collaboration of the soul of the people, which is the culture of the company. And when you change a culture, something that's deep inside, just imagine what happens when a person has a spiritual touch from God, or they've had just a life-changing aha, or they were a drug addict or an alcoholic, and they get to the point where the desire for drugs and alcohol just leaves them. When you have that kind of an internal transformation, that kind of an internal change, everything on the outside changes. So we're able to use scientific instruments to assess what's going on inside of the soul of a business and solve business problems by dealing with the real core. Corporate culture is the most misunderstood word. Culture is the most misunderstood word in corporate America. Everybody talks about it, but nobody ever Googled the definition. If they did, they're going to get two definitions, one from Cambridge in England, one from Harvard in the US. You put them together, it's the beliefs that govern how people behave at work. If someone believes I hate my boss, they're a jerk, then they're going to behave totally differently than someone who believes the opposite. So when you can identify what are these core beliefs that are going on that are causing the lack of diversity in the company, or that are causing the challenges between labor and management, that are causing the low sales, that are causing the lack of employee engagement, address those, help people deal with those, wonderful things happen, and it always shows up on the bottom line of the firm.
And you talked about measuring these with devices. You said what was it?
Well, it's more scientific instruments.
Scientific instruments. So
yeah,
I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, we have a number of tools that we use. Some that we've created ourselves after 4 decades of doing something. You kind of figure out what works, what sort of works, what kind of works, and what never works. And so we've developed some instruments ourselves that measure the culture of a firm or the culture of an individual, and then we license some from scientific providers. We have one partner that's a PhD out of the University of Illinois, Chicago, who's actually been gathering data on corporate cultures for 50 years. And so when you're gathering data for 50 years, it allows us to have access to corporate cultures from every civilized nation on the planet for benchmarking purposes. And basically, when you've got a instrument that's the global standard of measuring corporate culture, that's highly accurate, scientifically valid, statistically proven, not a theory, but a fact, it's a real valuable tool if you know how to use it.
Well, I would love to hear more about the instruments, the scientific instruments, but we're going to save some of that for the second part because we want our audience to get to know who you are, Steve. And because Andrea's had the opportunity to actually experience what you have taught and had as a workshop, I believe, we're going to have her engage a little bit more in the second segment to share the benefits she received and let people know why this is so important. But let's start off with who is Steve, because that is the big thing about these books called Dose of Hope or Any Keep Smiling book is how do we create who we are? And you obviously, if you've been doing this for, did you say 50 years?
No, 44.
44. Okay.
Yeah,
so we
started
got
when I was a baby.
When you were like 1. Okay, good. So in 6 years, I
started
have to
as a toddler.
Yeah, I have to make a note in 6 years to say happy 50th birthday. So we have a belief system in our template that when you create who you are, it is a determined, unstoppable, no matter how many challenges, failures you have, you go for it and you create a life you love. So why don't we start off with where you were born, what your childhood was like, and maybe something that happened in your childhood that maybe got you thinking about doing what you do now?
Well, that's a great question. I was born in West Texas in El Paso, actually, to a Mexican-American who was a football coach and a teacher and a boxing coach. My dad coached football, coached boxing, and taught school at a local school. He coached football in the Lombardi era. If you're a millennial and you don't know who Vince Lombardi was, Vince invented the NFL. And in that era, there were these Lombardi-isms that were the quotes of the great football coach, like, there's no gain without pain. You got to pay the price. Lombardi time is 10 minutes early. And if you're not there, you're not on time. So my 3 brothers, all younger, and I grew up with a dad who did a very good job of drumming those into us. And as a result, we all developed both very, very productive work ethics and some of us developed addiction to achievement, which later in life we had to break out of just to get some balance. But that, I think that was probably a defining moment. And then I remember when the other defining moment as a child, when I was 5 years old, we moved into my grandmother's house because Dad was between jobs. He knew he couldn't make the kind of living he wanted to teaching. So he decided that, he was going to try other things and sold a number of things, ended up selling cars. But when he was between jobs, we moved into his mom's house because times were tough. And she was a strong, dynamic Hispanic woman, came from Spain, born in Mexico, married a Mexican who was a revolutionary, locked up in prison. So she raised 5 kids pretty much on her own. Single mom, was the first woman pharmacist in the state of Texas. Very dynamic, profound, tall Spanish woman. And when you lived in her house, there were some rules. And one big rule was you always clean your plate because of the starving kids in Mexico. And when you always clean your plate and all you eat is beans and tortillas and rice, an all carb diet, you gain weight very quickly. So I was the fattest kid in the 5th grade. And I remember that as the fattest kid in the 5th grade, I always got picked last on all of the teams, because nobody wanted the slow fat kid on their team. So I got picked last just so the kids who were doing the picking didn't get in trouble with the teachers. And it gave me an understanding of what it felt like to be included rather than celebrated as a person. And, that defining moment has led us to some amazing transformational results with the firms that we serve today in the area of diversity, equity, and inclusion, creating cultures that celebrate diversity rather than tolerate it, and doing it because the goal is to win, not just to be diverse, so that everybody will think you're a nice company, whether you are or whether you aren't. So that was a defining moment. And then I think the other defining moment was as I grew up and got into my 20s, graduated college and went into the Army, got out of the Army, worked in the family business. My dad, because he was a football coach and a teacher still at heart, was always bringing in training programs, one or another. And there were 2 back-to-back training programs, one on the importance of setting goals in all areas of your life, not just your financial life or your business life, but your spiritual life and your family life and your health. And then the second one was on the psychology of achievement. And I put together what I learned, set goals, use psychology, achieve them all, and basically became an overachiever. Got really miserable, figured out that I didn't belong in the family business, which is an automotive business at that time. But my dad had the wisdom to partner with one of the trainers who brought us some of the content, and started a firm that was basically about personal development training. And in that day, personal development training was really important. People were buying it because it was better than motivation. The motivation courses, you get excited, but then when you get back to the jungle on Monday morning, it's all gone. So personal development training was basically more about how to motivate yourself than get motivated by a motivator. And the theme of the season was self-esteem. It was build the self-esteem of the individual, and everything's beautiful until a few years into it, the world, especially America, who read Dr. Benjamin Spock's book on building the self-esteem of your child, overdosed on it. And we developed this generation of narcissists where everybody overdosed on self-esteem and it was all about me. And our clients got to the point where they didn't want personal development training or self-esteem anymore. They wanted business results. And to do that, we had to help them build the balance between healthy self-esteem and effective team performance, and a culture that celebrated diversity and created ideal teaming in a fact that they won rather than, and got tremendous results on their, from their business performance. And we just kind of evolved into it by listening to clients and going through struggles and changing things to the point where, we actually ultimately developed a systemized process. If you look at any winning coach, any sports coach, they all have a system or a formula that they use every year. And they certainly have to innovate around it depending upon the players they have on their team. But we developed a system using data and science and technology and gifted people to help basically any organization, any business, solve any business problem by moving from a mediocre or an average culture or a terrible culture to a great one. By the way, 90% of successful businesses are underperforming because most leaders who lead a successful business believe if you have a successful business, you have an excellent culture. Nothing can be farther from the truth. Only 10% of successful businesses have excellent cultures. What does that tell us? 90% of corporate America, from Fortune 5s who we serve all the way to our smallest client with 20 employees to our largest client, the smallest client's a software startup. Our largest is Toyota, who we serve for 35 years, have tens of thousands of employees. If in fact you believe you have an excellent culture because your business is success, those two don't necessarily correlate directly. 90% of successful businesses have underperforming cultures. And as a result, they stub their toe from time to time with employee engagement, with diversity and inclusion, with low sales, with succession planning, with strategic planning, all of these processes that were created to solve problems. However, if all you do is change the process and you don't change the hearts of the people who are involved in it, you get a 10% improvement that doesn't last compared to a 500% improvement that lasts forever. And that's the difference between addressing the culture of a firm or a team or an organization or even a family and just putting a Band-Aid on whatever the problem is and stopping the bleeding for a while, but then it gets worse.
That makes sense. Symptomatic versus actually curing. So let's go to that comment you made earlier on about you think someone thinks the boss is a jerk and someone thinks the boss is terrific.
Yep.
It's kind of a Henry Ford, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. So you prove yourself right that that person's a jerk or otherwise. So through your
and in some cases the bosses really are jerks. But when you look at it from a culture perspective, it's not necessarily based on truth. It's just based on perception, as you said, the Henry Ford quote. Whether you think you can or you can't, you're right.
And with regard to the 90% not having the culture, I'll say education and also the celebration of a community that is humanity. What is the scientific instrument that actually helps you understand how far off you are from that?
Well, like I said, we have a number of them that we use. One that we developed ourselves called the Business Culture Mri. That is an online instrument that anybody can visit our site, excellentcultures.com, and click on the link, and in 10 minutes or less, get a quick view of what their culture is compared to the best in the world based on our database, compared to their own vision of the culture that they want. A lot of times leaders will have the wrong vision. They think that having, let's just say, one of the things we measure is the belief system about accountability. So is your vision a culture where people are raising their hands saying, please hold me accountable, I want to be accountable, I'd like to volunteer? Or is it heavy-handed bosses poking people in the chest and yelling at them so that everybody's hiding under the desk to avoid, or anything in between? So when you can identify what the dominant beliefs are around things like accountability, around things like diversity, around things like people's belief in their ability to do their jobs, around how leaders are developed, these 10 things that we boil it down to can tell you very, very quickly whether you have an excellent culture, whether your vision is right or not. And because we've done this for so long, we have a database of the best in the world that will tell you very quickly. We also license other instruments from scientific providers. One's in emotional intelligence assessment, one's a corporate culture assessment. And in this case, these are not personality assessments. The difference between culture and emotional intelligence and personality assessments is personalities are genetic. You're born with who you are, you're born with, and you can tweak it and adapt it. But who you're born with is who you are, or what you're born with is who you are. And yet you can augment who you are by partnering with others who are different if you have a culture that embraces and celebrates differences. or you can just be stuck. But conversely, culture, the beliefs that govern how people behave at work, is something that is learned, and it can be changed if you want to change it and you know how to change it and you know what to change. Emotional intelligence is something that is learned. It's not genetic, and you can change it if you want to change it. And again, by helping people identify what are these beliefs that govern how they behave at work or at home or even as a leader, and benchmarking them against who they want to be or how they want to behave, and or the best in the world, it helps people, leaders, organizations identify, what do we really need to work on? And then we have a process that helps them work on whatever they want to change and do it in a way that creates measurable impact.
Well, with how much you have shared just in the first segment, I am just wondering, are you going to be able to keep this up for the second segment? That's one. Number two, I think that you come across as an expert in this field. I just want to compliment you on that.
Yeah, well, thank you. Well, thank you. After you've done anything for that long, plus, Andrea didn't tell you about my family, because we had 2 children the normal way, did foster care, fostered 11 and adopted 9, and have 11 children from 18 to 47. And the adopted kids all came from rejected, abused backgrounds. Anytime you have those kind of battle scars, you kind of figure out what works, what doesn't work, what really works, what always works, and what never works. And it's like great leaders, or good leaders, learn from the mistakes. Great leaders learn from the mistakes of others.
Right.
I wasn't a great leader. I was a good leader. I learned from a lot of my mistakes and finally figured out that, whoa, there's smarter people than me. Maybe I can learn from them.
Well, we're going to reverse the segment so that we learn a little more about that story, because I find that fascinating. And we're going to obviously go into some of what Andrea learned at your workshop. So we're going to go to break. We'll be back in about 2 minutes. And Steve, really enjoyable to hear all this knowledge and information that helps a company that would otherwise be unprofitable or unmotivated to actually have the answers to actually be a community. So
yeah,
thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
And as I share the sponsors, I'm going to give you a quick tease. I have the test results of, you can't see them, of the NBA coach, Dell.
Next to your face.
He told me I could have them. So what's the tease for now? So you didn't even get to see it all, and I'll show you afterwards. And thanks to bees.social, my makeup lady, Lynn Benavides, menfashion.com, the EMF Fix, Perfect Publishing, the redcarpetconnection.com, the Umbrella Syndicate, and the Voice America Influencers channel. And please love on the keepsmilingmovement.com. Your donations and your contributions of your stories to help us share other messages literally save lives with smiles by creating a dose of hope. And we'll be back after these messages.
All right, all clear. Sorry about that, Andrea. I go across the room and listen from across the room, and then I came over here to send the cues and saw your message. It's like, oh.
Well, Aaron, we actually, all 3 of us left, and we went and got some coffee and came back. So back at you.
That's why I told him it was fine. Yeah.
It must be a long cord.
Holding it to my face doesn't work. So
it's actually a long coffee straw.
Maybe I'll fold it.
So Aaron, I guess you're getting pretty excited about the birthday coming up after all these birthday wishes.
I don't know, man. Kind of burned out on birthdays.
I bet. So Steve, we're going to talk.
As a reminder, we're still live on.
So Steve, we're going to talk about your family life now. We're going to talk about how you juggle that, and I wanted to talk about
10 seconds.
Thank you. When
then is it possible for us to bring in what us and the culture of KSM, Ken, with Steve?
I think anything is possible. Aaron's.
All right, here we go.
This is Amplify. To reach the show today, please call 1-866-472-5795. That's 1-866-472-5795. We also would love to hear from you via email to info@umbrellasyndicate.com. Now, back to Amplify.
All right, this is Ken Rochon, and we are on Amplified Influencer channel. And we're going to be very brief with the sponsors, give them a quick little shout out, and get back to this program because we have a lot more to cover. Andrea?
Bees.social, menfashion.com, mymakeuplady.com, the Umbrella Syndicate, the Red Carpet Connection, Perfect Publishing, and the EMF Fix. And we are back thanks to Voice America Influencers channel.
So Steve, I know that I was prodding you with if with all the information you have, you should have a book, and obviously that information is so valuable. And I know you do these courses, but this is a fantastic book. Where would people go on Amazon to buy information that you would read to help them understand this solution?
Well, we're working on a book, kind of a traditional book right now that is actually a corporate fiction that is in the works. The only thing they're going to find on Amazon about us is our workshop workbook, which is Achieving Excellent Culture. And they can buy the workbook if they want to, but they'd probably be more effective if they got the workbook by participating in the workshop that Andrea participated in. That typically most of our work we do inside with companies privately, but 3 times a year we do open workshops that anyone from any firm can attend, that are usually attended by middle managers to CEOs of everything from startups to Fortune 5s to for-profits and nonprofits both, which is what Andrea attended. We have another one coming up that you can attend either virtually or live and in person on September 29th and 30th. It's in North Dallas, Texas. You can go to excellentcultures.com and look at the events and sign up, or you can look at my LinkedIn profile, Steve Gandara, 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 however you say it, and check us out on LinkedIn. But if you're interested in more, most of the folks, because we're in the corporate culture, business culture is deep. Most of the folks who get benefit from what we do are not just looking for, the cutest little motivational trinket. If that's the case, there's a lot of motivators you can go to, a lot of self-help books you can read. But if you're looking for deep transformation, something that really makes a difference and that is sustainable and will last, you would love this workshop. It's called Achieving Excellent Culture. You can attend, like I said, either virtually in the virtual webinar. I'll tell you that 1/3 of the content is traditional training, 1/3 is self-study. So you're going to go deep with yourself as a leader. And then 1/3 is interactive table discussions or chat room discussions if you're online with other leaders. My recommendation would be, if this strikes a serious note to you, you want to attend one of those like Andrea did a couple of months ago.
So we're going to turn it over to Andrea in a minute or two, but we got to give a shout out to Peter Stropel, who made this connection and opportunity possible. So where'd you meet Peter?
I met Peter through one of our colleagues, John Robertson, who is a mutual friend that Andrea and I share. And Peter actually is attending our September 29th and 30th workshop. So if you want to meet Peter in person, he'll be there and is looking forward to it. This particular workshop that's coming up in September, we have 2 great guest speakers, both from Toyota. One is the former VP of the Puerto Rican division, who just got their employee engagement scores at 95%, and whose market share is second in the world only to Japan, on this island that suffered earthquakes and pandemics and hurricanes and social unrest, 1 million people on the streets firing the governor. 95% in employee engagement and second in the world in market share only to Japan is huge. The other one is the former VP of the marketing division, who led Toyota through the largest scandal in the history of their industry, to a record move from number 27 in employee engagement to number 1, and a 2% market share increase nationally, telling his story of personal transformation as a leader, as well as the corporate story. So these are rare opportunities. These guys are very busy and are phenomenal leaders and have led these kind of transformations using our tools. They'll be there sharing their stories. So you definitely want to make it if you're serious about transformation.
Well, we are, and I am. So am I available for that, Andrea? Do you know?
I think we can make it work. So
Okay.
trying to see what we can do.
Okay,
He's working on the calendar.
Gotcha. So Andrea, why don't you share the experience and take the helm for about 5 minutes and give gratitude to Steve and what you learned.
Well, it's really wonderful because Steve has another part of his program too, where they're very philanthropic and they give back to nonprofits as well. And so, in working with us and helping with us as a nonprofit, not only having us look at our culture of who we are and how we show up in the world and how we individually show up, but how we present as an organization to other people has been instrumental. And the people I connected with and met there, wow, what a fantastic group of people. It just is one of those places, Ken, where when you're there and you're with them, you're like, wow, this is where I belong. These are my people. They really care about other people. They
So they're
care
not
about
really
moving
so it's
forward
not like a
continually.
so it's not like a collection of haters, is what you're trying to tell me.
It's not a collection of haters. It's a collection of people who definitely love the world. But and it's people who want to succeed and who are motivated, very much like you, Ken. That like no is just an obstacle to overcome. On why did I get a no, and what can I do to get them to see me for who I am in my heart and my culture and my business, so that I show up the way I want to be seen. And I met Del Harris there. He is an MBA winning basketball coach for multiple years. He was head coach for the Houston Rockets, Milwaukee Bucks, LA Lakers, as well as the Legends. And one of the things is when we were there working together, he said, "Here, Andrea," he had this form and he was getting ready to leave. And I said, "Hey, is there any chance I can get a picture of that?" And he goes, "Why don't you just hang on to it for me? I'm trying to get it to show up in the screen. Hang
I think
on
if you
to it
put it
for
right on
me
your
so it'll
face,
show."
yeah, if you put it
Yeah, I
right in,
put it on my face, it
it
disappears,
doesn't
so
matter.
I can't get the.
Gotcha.
Anyhow, so it's just a sneak peek of
That was definitely a
his
sneak.
scores, of his scores on the particular organizational culture profile. And what was really interesting and fun, and I wish I could show you this closer, is if you were to look at his and look at mine, they are not far off. Ours, as far as the constructive styles and aggressive defensive styles, were really close in alignment. Where we were off is he is his passive defensive styles for winning a game had to be it was in the competition. I'm not competitive, so I'm like, and he's like, no, we got to win. And so
Right.
that's those were our major differences. But as far as the
Yeah.
rest of the alignment, really close. So it's a wonderful event. And to imagine what it can do for your nonprofit or your business or your corporate. I mean, if you're already a Fortune 500 and you want to get to the top Fortune 100, you might want to go.
So, Steve, I'm guessing that the leader that actually embraces this type of philosophy and mentality and acceptance to everyone being part of a team and a winning project, that makes a huge difference. And
Well, it's everything.
Yeah.
So, and again, in our current societal theme of diversity is great. If a firm or an organization has racism, it's evil. They need to stamp it out. I think everybody knows that by now. But there's a right and a wrong way to do diversity. For example, the wrong way is to focus on diversity, because diversity without unity produces chaos, and we've seen it on our streets. But if the goal is unity that celebrates diversity, then it produces winning. And there's no better example. I mean, you look at our current NBA and WNBA. Look at our two men's and women's Olympic teams that just won. You got people from every place in life, every perspective, every point of view. Look at our NBA champions. The Milwaukee Bucks. They got people from all over, every color. The MVP is an African who grew up in Greece, who has a handle, the Greek freak, that he celebrates. Most people, if you called me a freak, I would get offended and get mad. He celebrates it, even has a shoe called a freak. I don't know how many millions he's making on the shoe called a freak. So it's the difference between, the NBA and the WNBA do a wonderful job of displaying what diversity that works looks like. And that's because the goal is unity, and it's a culture of unity. When I talked to Dell, the former NBA coach of the year, 5 NBA teams that he coached, coached the Chinese national team, the Puerto Rican team, and asked him, what do you think about diversity and inclusion? He says, well, Steve, I love diversity because it's what wins, but I don't know about this inclusion stuff. Well, why is that, Dale? He says, because the only color that matters on a basketball team is the color of your jersey.
Mm-hmm.
And so they do it in basketball because the goal is to win. And to win in basketball, you got to have unity. You see it in soccer and other team sports as well. Yet in corporate America, we seem to have gotten distracted on all these other scenarios. And if you handle diversity, I just did an interview for Minority Business News, one last month, another one that'll run next month. If the goal is diversity, you're going to have chaos. If the goal is unity that celebrates diversity, not only are you not going to have chaos, you're going to have win. You're going to win, and you're going to have diversity. It's going to happen. We actually have clients who have won awards for best places to work and diversity who didn't even have a diversity strategy. Mm-hmm. They had an excellent culture strategy, and guess what? They won awards in diversity. We're sitting in the room when they were announcing that and describing the company that was going to win. They were talking about their company. They didn't even know it was in because they didn't have a diversity strategy.
I want to bring up 2 points, Steve. One is the children's book, Sneetches by Dr. Seuss, where it actually really
you better not say Dr. Seuss. Your video is going to get canceled. Your video is going to get canceled.
Well, we will not call it that then. We will just call it Sneetches.
The children's book. The children's book.
But it talks about how they were so consumed about whether they had a star on theirs or not. And instead of being productive and enjoying life, they basically both exhausted all their resources, money, etc., to switch back and forth the other and never being happy. So that is, I think, a really good example of a children's book. And I'll have to research later why you're not allowed to say the good doctor's name.
It doesn't fit with some of the current philosophy of separating people instead of unifying them.
Yes, exactly. And then I'll also ask you, did you see the diversity theme for The Office? I think that was their second or third show. Do you remember seeing that by any chance?
I didn't see that one, but I'm going to watch it because I love The Office. It's hilarious.
So Steve Carroll, I think that is potentially the funniest one because he couldn't have gotten it worse or more wrong.
Yeah.
He went the exact. I mean, it actually would have some bits in there if you had permission to show it at your workshop of how to really do it the wrong way.
Yeah, we'll definitely view it. And again, it's common. It's like common sense. You almost have to, get somebody to help you misunderstand, but we do. And why can we do it in basketball and not in business or corporate America or the government? That's not my expertise, so I'm going to stay away from politicians and government. We're good on companies and corporations and for-profits and nonprofits. We can do it with organizations who want to. And I mean, that's the big deal. It all starts with the want to, who really wants to change. And if they do, we can help them. If they don't, then they should just be happy with the way they have what they're doing right now.
Well, my son is coming out with a book on 9/11, and he was born on Flag Day, and it's called Kenny's Favorite Things About America. It's his 6th book, and the second page in the book, the first page in the book is about the Statue of Liberty welcoming all to this country and that we accept them and that it is a land of free. The second page is about Ellis Island and how all the people that immigrate into the country, which would be 100% of everyone who has come to this country. It's interesting that we have diversity issues, or I should say prejudice issues, when we know that we could have been the one that is the wrong color, the wrong size, the wrong gender, whatever, and you're being brought into a country where it's a melting pot. So that is one thing that I love about America, is that it is a collection of the world.
Yeah, exactly. And if we can just get this part right, if we can learn from Coach Harris and all of his experience building winning teams, that diversity is a fruit. It's not a root. Unity is the root. And if you grow unity, it produces diversity automatically. If you try to treat diversity, which is a fruit, like a root, you just get chaos because it's not intended that way. We'll figure it out. And we can.
So you brought up your family and how large it is. I would like you to just, we have probably about 2 or 3 minutes if you'd do a nice little tangent of how you balanced life. First of all, how you met your wife, brief, and then you had 2 children, and then please continue.
Well, I married my high school sweetheart. We celebrated 49 years week before last. We got married in college, met in high school, got married in college, and we went through a marriage crisis in our late 30s, early 40s, which revealed that she always wanted more children and I didn't. And I don't think she ever told me. And I don't think it's one of those things that she just told me and I didn't hear. I don't think she ever realized it, that she wanted more. And so I said, you need to be happy. Called up a friend who was in children's services, asked if we could check out any orphans for the holidays. He laughed, says, there's no more orphans. There's only foster children. You have to go to class for 6 weeks to get licensed, but we have a free orientation in January. Why don't you show up? We went, learned things about raising kids that we wish we'd have known to raise our 2 teenagers. And then we got a placement with 2 children, kept them for 6 months. They went back to their parents when the parents had completed their therapy and counseling, and it broke our hearts, broke our children's hearts. So we basically kept the next 7. They were all kids who came from very challenged backgrounds with every problem you can imagine. We had to hire a nanny instead of a administrative assistant. First nanny had a nervous breakdown 6 weeks on the job, literally, really had a nervous breakdown on the job, and got to the point where we were just exhausted and done. But then we had a divine intervention on the last 2. And so now we have ages 18 to 47. Our 18-year-old son has a 12-year-old nephew. So it's and we have every race, but no Asian kids. They just never asked us to foster Asian kids. But we've got every other race, and it's a very eclectic family. And thank God they're almost all grown. And everybody's alive, gainfully employed, and headed in the right direction at one stage or another.
Well, let's get them all to the workshop in September and do a family shot.
That
yeah,
would
I
be
got
a
to meet a
miracle.
couple of his sons, and they're wonderful, and a son-in-law.
Yeah.
All right. Anything we're missing, Andrea, as far as your experience at the workshop? Anything that I'm leaving out of this?
What I see as the missing, we don't have time for, and that's for him to be able to share some things that would actually help us with the Keep Smiling movement and help the world understand who we are. So maybe that's a.
Do we have a minute? Do we have a minute for him to do that?
Sure.
Okay. Steve, generally speaking, what you know about the Keep Smiling movement and/or nonprofits, can you give a 1 minute, 90-second answer?
Well, the beautiful thing I love about the work that you guys are doing there is that a smile is a fruit. It's not a root. You can't fake a smile, because if you fake it, everybody knows you're faking it. So in order to produce a real smile, that was a good fake smile, Andrea, but we all knew you're faking it. It's genuine, and it comes from within. And in order for smiles to happen, something transformational needs to happen inside of our hearts, our minds, our subconscious thinking system that produces that fruit of a natural smile. And if you can find a way to help people make those transformations that generate these natural, automatic, responses of a smile, that's a good thing. Because faking smiles, politicians are really good at that. But we've all lost faith in politicians, regardless of what side of the aisle we come from, or if we're even in the middle, like I kind of am. But real, genuine smiles create, are a fruit of transformation that happens in people's hearts, and that's a great thing.
Anything we could do that you could just quickly recommend that would make us more effective, more impactful?
Well, I think what we have to contribute is pretty much packaged in that workshop, and the fact that Andrea's been there, she has access to the 10-week sustainment podcast that you can listen to sustain it, and the fact that you're trying to get your schedule arranged to attend one is about the best contribution we can make to people, because it crams into 2 days not everything that we've learned over 4 decades of helping organizations and people transform in a manner that produces these huge, miraculous triple and quadruple digit returns that are just the financial side. It doesn't measure the heart side or the people side or the number of smiles that were created. we need to come up with a new assessment that measures the number of smiles that were created, because that would be great. But
talk to Bhutan. Bhutan has the happiness.
Exactly. Most business leaders, are bottom line oriented, and they'll invest in something that they have confidence will improve their bottom line. And it just so happens that, transformation of people's hearts and minds improves the bottom line when you know how to do it. And we're blessed to have learned how to do it.
That's beautiful. So we're gonna cut into. We have how many minutes we have? Doesn't show here, but we're gonna go into our rapid fire.
Fast. Yeah.
So here's the rapid fire, young man. So, what book changed your life?
The Bible. The Bible. That changed my life. And it wasn't just reading it. It was, I've heard about it too. It was just my own personal experience.
We have only about 2 minutes. We have 2 minutes.
And again, I don't have time to talk to you about that now. But you asked the question. That's the book.
I believe
it's the only book.
Awesome.
It's the only book I've read in my life that I'm still reading 40 some odd years after I started reading it.
Cool.
Awesome. And for the next couple questions, we're going to ask for just the answer, not even a full sentence.
Got
it. Mike, I get to ask the next. What's the song that gets you motivated and moving?
The Eye of the Tiger.
Nice.
That's a good one. Survivor. All right. What movie inspires you?
Let's see. Any movie where the team overcomes tremendous adversity and comes together and wins. Kind of like, there's so many of them that I've seen, but any of those, I always cry at those kind of movies.
You got it.
Yeah.
Andrea?
When you were a child, what did you want to grow up and be?
I wanted to grow up and be a tycoon.
That's a good one. Who's someone you'd love to meet that you haven't met?
Someone that I would love to meet, Mahatma Gandhi.
Me too. Andrea?
Take a time, you can.
Okay.
Final question is, what quote do you live by?
What quote do I live by? I live by a Bible quote. Be ye a hearer of the word and not a doer only.
Beautiful.
I like to be one who practices what I try to believe instead of just hears it and it goes away.
Well, Steve, it has been a pleasure having you on the show. This show is about amplifying leaders who lead a life they love, cause inspiration, and bring community together. And as you know, we couldn't be in a better business, because a smile is something that does welcome, love, and bring humanity together. So we're so excited that you are endorsing what we do, and we also support so much what you're doing and want to learn more of how we can bring your message to the world, because I think that is the answer. So this is Ken Rochon, and I want to make sure we get our sponsors real quick. Andrea?
Yes, the Umbrella Syndicate, the Red Carpet Connection, My Makeup Lady, Lynn Benavides, the EMF Fix, Bees.social, Perfect Publishing, Voice America Influencers Channel, menfashion.com, and the KeepSmilingMovement.com. Back to you, Ken.
Great. So if you know someone who is celebrating unity through diversity and you'd like to recommend them for the Dose of Hope, we certainly would like to hear their story. A story like this is going to inspire so many people that may have lost hope. So we are so excited that we are getting past the halfway point. We have over 250 authors. We want to close the project out in November with 500. And believe it or not, if those 250 just recommended one person, we would double and we'd be complete with a beautiful, beautiful project. Dose of Hope again stands for dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins, the beautiful chemicals that God gives you when you are living a life you love, excited about winning, and also bringing a lot of influence and passion and making a difference in the world. So keep transforming yourself so you can transform the world. Stay amplified.
Thank you, guys.
We hope you've enjoyed this week's edition of Amplified. Be sure to join Ken Rochon
Again next Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time and 8 a.m. Pacific Time on the Voice America Influencers Channel.
Now, go get your message heard.